Dan Jurgens, Robert Venditti, and Andy Schmidt conclude their massive time travel adventure with the creation of a new concept within the DC multiverse as the team of heroes take the fight to Dominus and put a stop to his plan to erase all of time from existence. Dan Jurgens, Robert Venditti, and Andy Schmidt finish up their event series with another issue that absolutely was meant to be at least 2 or 3 issues long, and not one long 80-page slog. Slog, I think, is a pretty apt description of this book, since while I really enjoyed how it was a love letter to DC events of the 80s and 90s like Crisis of Infinite Earths and 0 Hour, and was comprised of a fun selection of heroes and villains, it was such a chore to get through. Again, thanks to the paragraphs upon paragraphs of speech bubbles covering every page, explaining every little thing, which wouldn't be a problem if, again, the issue was broken into 2 or 3 separate issues, since you could space them out a little bit more. And I absolutely guarantee you that was the plan for this and Generation Shattered. The book and event does actually build to something, and that is the Linearverse, a universe where everyone ages slower, and because of it, characters like the original Batman from the 40s will be the modern one as well, allowing everything to be canon. It's a really fun idea that I'm hoping we actually get to see more of in the near future, and being that the Omniverse now exists, it is out there. On the art side of things, a total of 11 artists lend their hands to the event, and it all looked quite fantastic, really helping sell this huge universe and timeline spanning event with art from all the different eras of DC Comics, with 80s inspired art, stuff that looks like it could be from the early 50s or the 40s, some artwork by Dan Jurgens which represented the 90s stuff, as well as more modern 2000 and 2010s looking stuff from Marco Santucci. Generations Forge issue 1 was a pretty cool time travel event story inspired by DC's events of the 80s and 90s in a rather bloated and strung out way that would have benefited from it staying as the multi-issue event series it almost assuredly was. Still, the book was a fun ride through the DC universe and introduced us to a cool new concept with the Linearverse. I'm going to give this issue a 6 out of 10. Generations Forged issue 1 finds Dominus retreat to his extracted timeline, where he looks over the team that has been assembled to combat him, wondering just how this mismatched team survived the time-altering powers he now has. He knows it doesn't matter since the old timeline will be shattered soon and they'll be obliterated along with it, and he's labored too hard to have everything he's made ruined. Soon his young son calls for him, coming down the stairs with a coffee for him, seeing his father's true form. Dominus quickly shifts back into his normal human form, saying his son shouldn't have seen that and he shouldn't have brought his work home with him. He tells the boy that everything he's done is for them and his family is all he's ever wanted, and he designed this era and place to remain unspoiled by the other time. The boy is confused as his father tells him not to be afraid, using his powers to reverse and fix time, making it so that he has enough time to disguise himself before his son comes in with his coffee. The boy asks if now that his father has done his work they can go and play, and the man says they can, since he hasn't been giving them enough time and attention, and some details in his work slip through the cracks, but it won't happen again. Going upstairs, Dominus reaffirms that everything is perfect as he plays with his kids outside. Elsewhere, Starfire, Dr. Light, and Kamandi find themselves somewhere in time. Light knows that the clock is ticking and they need to get the others and return to the vanishing point to try and fix the timeline. Kamandi knows that they have already lost, and without the talking gauntlet he had, there is no way back to the vanishing point. Dr. Light thinks that Kamandi holds the key to fixing this, being that he was the first chosen for this group as Starfire tries to blast her way out of the prison they find themselves in. Dr. Light warns her not to, but it's too late as the energy ricochets around the room, hitting Dr. Light in the face and knocking her out cold. The other two heroes are zapped by the arriving General Zod, who says off-worlders aren't allowed on Krypton and they must identify themselves. He sees Dr. Light is injured, calling for a medic before asking Starfire about her interesting powers. Kamandi runs off, called a coward by Corey, as the boy leaps from the window and onto a flying Kryptonian car. He tells Starfire that he can't help them from inside a cage as he looks into the futuristic city in wonder, before realizing he needs to hide and figure out where he is. General Zod meanwhile notes that the boy has no spine, knowing that he might have some use for a servant like Starfire. Dr. Light awakens, saying they need to find Kamandi since time is running out and they all need to work together. Light passes out as Jor-El arrives, saying that he will take the prisoners to medical and wants to study Corey. Zod isn't happy his facility is being intruded upon by Jaw, but the scientist says the science division outranks military in some cases, this being one. He loads Dr. Light onto a gurney as Zod says he will not forget this, something Jaw knows he won't, wondering where the third being in the report is. Zod says the boy escaped, which Jor-El finds a pity as hours later, Dr. Light is revived in Jor-El's lab, telling the scientist that they are from Earth, a planet he has never heard of. She asks where Kamandi is, but Starfire says that they will deal with him later and wants to help Light since she caused her pain with her powers. Light knows that they cannot leave Kamandi behind despite Corey saying that he betrayed them. Jor-El says that Dr. Light is a guest in his home and he can help her heal while Corey goes to find Kamandi, assuring Starfire that he and his wife Lara will look after Kimio. Starfire takes off as Jor-El knows that thanks to Dr. Light's study of stars, there might be something in his lab that might be useful to her. On prehistoric Thanagar, Steel calls for Superboy's help in dealing with a dragon as Superboy arrives on a makeshift vehicle that he uses to throw a net over the creature, trapping it on the ground. Steel compliments his shooting skills as Clark says that he should be pretty good at it since he's had enough practice against the lizards. As they secure the lizard, Superboy wonders why John Henry won't call him Clark, learning from the man that he doesn't know him on a first name basis and doesn't even know him as a kid at all, only knowing him as the older Superman, and then Dominus came along and mucked everything up. The lizard kicks itself free, knocking out Superboy as Steel knocks the monster out with a swing from his hammer. Superboy awakens, saying that he's okay, so Steel tells him that he'll meet him halfway, saying he'll call the boy Superboy if he agrees to call him Steel. Superboy agrees with that as Steel finishes securing the monster, wanting to relocate the monster in the morning. He says that while they are making deals with one another then, Clark needs to be more careful since there is no yellow sun near the planet, meaning he doesn't have any of his powers, so he needs to start using his head. Clark says that he wants to do his part, feeling trapped like the lizard in front of them and not used to being the one who needs the help. Steel welcomes him to how the rest of them live as the duo head back to camp, and on the way talk about how it's been months since they were stranded there, but with Dominus's power, it could have been easily a second in real time or even 1,000 years. Superboy says that doesn't make any sense, asking how the villain could do that, so Steel says that time is getting rewritten into something new, something only Dominus controls. Superboy tells the hero that they need to do something about that and stop him, but Steel says all they will do is wait, and it's Clark's night to cook. That night over dinner, Clark asks what he's like in the future, but Steel says it doesn't matter how many times the boy asks, he will tell him the same thing, that he can't say anything since it will damage time and they can't make things worse than they already are. Clark just wants some little tiny detail, so Steel says that he'll grow up to inspire him to be the hero he is, and he realizes that he never had a chance to tell that to Superman. Clark is excited that he and Steel are a team in the future, wondering what type of adventures they go on. Steel says that it's not like that since Superman pushed him to apply his mind because he doesn't have powers like him. Superboy knows that his powers aren't doing much good now, saying that the godness Kamandi talked about is coming, the same wave that took the Legion of Superheroes, and he can't do anything about it. Steel knows that it is indeed coming, and there is no telling when, but maybe the time shard they're in is on the edge of everything, so they'll keep waiting and making sure Superboy doesn't get killed, since he can't die there. Superboy says that Steel makes super suits and super hammers and is a genius, so he can get them out of there, but John Henry says it's time the young hero went to bed. The next morning, Steel wakes Superboy up with his hammer, telling him to brush his hair and teeth since they are starting the day early. Superboy thought that Steel said that they were just going to be waiting around, but John Henry says that the wind is right and they can set the beast they captured the other day free today before breakfast. Clark knows that this is hopeless and they'll all grow old and die there, but Steel tells him to stop and to get in the cart since he's driving this time. Suddenly, Eradicator and Nemesis Kid arrive, looking to kill the heroes on behalf of Dominus. Superboy is knocked down as Steel says that these were the things he's been waiting for. In extracted time, Dominus's daughter trips and falls on a rock, hurting her knee, causing her father to use his powers to reverse time time and change it so that she never tripped, allowing her to continue to run and play with her brother and dog, as Dominus knows that constant focus in every moment is all worth it in the end. In the future, Sinestro doesn't recognize where they are, learning from his ring that they are decades in the future in a time native to Omak. The ring says that they are in Electric City, as Sinestro curiously asks for more information, learning the ultra-rich rule here and are in charge of the disadvantaged. Soon some rich people begin shooting at some people on the ground from their flying car, making a game out of it. Sinestro confronts the men, calling them scum. Men think he's with the Global Peace Agency, but Sinestro says that he's with the Corps, saying that he is a Green Lantern and his name is Sinestro. He uses a trident construct to destroy their car, causing them to plummet to the ground, as the Lantern tells the men that he has every right to do this to them, but as much as they deserve to breathe their last. Sinestro catches the men before they are killed, frustrated that he has to spare them on behalf of the Guardians, as the Global Peace Agency arrive, intent on arresting Sinestro, since they are the law there and their word is absolute. Before they can do anything, however, the Ultra Humanite arrives, demanding Sinestro not disrupt the time stream any longer than he has. Sinestro says that if the villain was truly superior in mind like he says he is, then he should understand that Dominus is the one altering time, and he will be sacrificed in the process. A few blocks away, Booster Gold watches the news about the immediate curfews thanks to the white cloud of unknown origin annihilating parts of the city. He's called to the ground by a woman who thinks that he is responsible for the destruction of the city, and the markets are melting down because of it, and she's losing billions. Booster says that they have way bigger problems than money to worry about, as suddenly Major Force smashes him in the face. Booster tries to get him to stop hitting him since he could kill him, and Major Force says that's the plan, as the hero blasts the villain with his energy blasts, saying Dominus will sacrifice the villain as well, and if he takes out the heroes, he'll be cutting his own throat. Major Force calls Booster a lightweight and doesn't know what he's talking about, but Michael isn't so sure about that, since all the villain needs to do is look around and see everything is going to die, including himself. Major Force doesn't believe the hero, since the time travel wristband he was given by Dominus means he can leave whenever he wants. Booster grabs the man's wrist, telling him to try the wristband, and the villain does, finding the bracelet doesn't even activate. Booster hates being right, but they are dead man now as the wave begins to engulf the city. Dominus meanwhile watches the battle through a mirror as his daughter realizes that he found her doll's mirror, hoping that he will help her do her doll's hair. Dominus is glad to help since the doll's hair is the most important thing in the universe to him right now. Booster meanwhile grabs Major Force, racing away from the white void, telling him that they are looking for friends while they still can, since the news said something about a giant bat rampaging through the Builder-Friend warehouse. It doesn't take a genius to work out they're talking about Batman. On Krypton, Dr. Light says that she learned much in the last few weeks in Jor-El's lab, wanting to show the man what she has found about the red sun near Krypton and how it's destabilizing the planet's core. Krypton will be destroyed because of it. She didn't know that the universe could be so malleable, since her time there has also allowed her to dive into her own work, and she has discovered a web amongst the strands of time, and she thinks the team is trapped on various time shards and are experiencing weeks, while others are experiencing mere hours. She knows that she can trace these pathways in the web, but can't traverse them since it would take an immense power to do so. Jor-El realizes the immense power she's talking about could come from the exploding planet, but Dr. Light is quick to say that she'd never use a tragedy like that. Jor-El apologizes for taking his frustration out on the woman, but he wonders what he'll tell his wife. The end is now near as the pregnant Lara arrives, saying he will tell her the truth like he always has, asking how long they have. Dr. Light says that they have days and maybe a couple of weeks at most, something Lara knows isn't good since their son isn't due for another month, and now they will never meet him. Dr. Light apologizes for that, telling the couple that they have given her a home there and she has been so happy to be working there with them, but she misses her own children and wishes she could give that gift to the couple. The hero, however, realizes there might actually be a way, but it will take everything she's got. On the streets of Krypton, Kamandi battles Omek, Artemis, and other villains who surround the boy despite him not being afraid of them, having battled giant bats, militaristic apes, and aliens from outer space. Omek says that no one is coming for him, but Kamandi isn't so sure about that as Starfire arrives, trapping the villains in a circle of star bolts as she grabs grabs Kamandi and flies away. The boy wonders if they are friends now, but the woman says there is no chance of that happening. Omak knows that Starfire is fast, but with all of that hair she's left behind, they will easily track her. Later on a rooftop, Corey says that Kamandi left her and Light to die, but the boy says he's been trying to get back to them, but Omak and the other villains have been on his tail the entire time. Corey makes it clear that she doesn't like the boy, but will never leave a comrade behind, and Dr. Light made her promise to retrieve him. Kamandi says that he spent his whole life escaping one bad thing after another and never really had anyone defend him, so he doesn't know how to act. Starfire knows that the boy is in over his head, and they could talk about the death coming for them or get to work, since she's left a hair trail long enough for the villains to find them, something Kamandi isn't too pleased about. Dr. Light meanwhile tells Jor-El and Lara that her powers manipulate solar light, but there is a risk that if she absorbs the power of the red sun to tap into the temporal web, the goneness that destroyed her home might arrive there sooner. But if she takes the energy from the sun, she could manipulate the temporal streams and in the process give Jor-El and Lara more time on Krypton. Dr. Light grabs the red sun energy, taking it into herself and succeeding in giving Krypton a few more months, but Krypton will still die eventually. Jor-El knows that they will get to hold their son now thanks to Dr. Light, and Lara knows that the woman doesn't understand how much this means to them. Dr. Light though says the goneness has arrived and saving Krypton from one threat has brought another one to their doorstep. Omak and the other linear men meanwhile track Starfire by her long flowing hair she left behind, soon learning that it's a trap as Starfire blasts out of a building, toppling it onto the villains and defeating them as Kamandi watches on. In the wreckage, Starfire grabs Artemis, demanding to know how they get back to the vanishing point. The villain says they can't since their temporal bracelets stopped working as soon as they arrived on Krypton, confirming to Starfire that Dominus betrayed and left the villains there to die. Kamandi says that he doesn't know a lot about this era or the planets, but can tell Corey that what he saw in Dominus's eyes was loss, and whatever it is that has upset him, he thinks it's because something broke him, and he may be a little bit more tragic than evil. Starfire says that Dr. Light was right about the boy being a key to this, as a bright light arrives, heralding the arrival of the red sun-powered Dr. Light, who tells the linear men and her friends that time has run out and the goneness is there for them all, but she felt a connection to it when she overloaded her powers. Omak realizes that they were sent there to die, but Dr. Light tells them all to get close, since it's time to go. Eradicator meanwhile battles Steel, who protects Superboy from the villain's optic blast, but soon proves too much for John Henry, who is blown back by the force of the blast. Steel tells the boy to stay down, as Superboy knows now is a good time to know about the future since they aren't going to see it anyway. Steel doesn't tell the boy anything, smashing Eradicator with his energy-powered hammer as Nemesis Kid confronts Superboy, readying to battle the hero, but he finds his powers haven't adapted yet. Superboy knows that the kid's powers adapt to whoever he's fighting, and on Thanagar there isn't anything super about Superboy. Superboy socks the boy in the gut, knocking him down as Steel finishes up the Eradicator, telling Clark not to get too cocky since this isn't over. The goneness suddenly arrives and the villains know that Dominus will stop it until they have finished their mission, but this is their deadline. Steel hits Eradicator with the hammer, telling Clark to get the car up and running as he takes the villain's time bracelet, telling him that they will set this right and even Eradicator will come through in the end. The heroes take off in the cart as the goneness consumes Eradicator. As the heroes race away, Steel looks over the time bracelet while Superboy sees Nemesis Kid running after them, asking not to be left behind. Superboy tells the boy to grab his hand, but it's too late as the goneness takes him as well. Steel tells Clark to hold the cart steady as he learns the time tech is disabled in the time bracelet, quickly rewiring it and activating the bracelet, allowing them to sail through a portal as the goneness consumes the planet. In Electric City, Batman battles guards in the Builder Friend warehouse, finding mechanical people to be grotesque, wanting to burn the place down to the ground. He knows though he's trying to save the guards and their world as one of the men grabs a woman, saying unless the hero wants her dead, he will give up. He wants to know the deal with the mask and cape as Booster Gold arrives, hitting the man away from the woman. The woman thanks Batman, wanting to be his friend and get closer to him as Booster grabs Batman, diving away from her as she explodes into mechanical parts. Booster says that she was a biodroid and they con the lonely out of their money and kill them sometimes. Batman had hoped the future would have been a better place than his timeline, but it's a nightmare. Booster says that Electric City is the worst worst of it all, but it won't matter if the godness keeps coming. The heroes regroup with Sinestro, Major Force, and Ultra Humanite, who have realized that they have a common goal of survival. Booster calls the villains patsies for being conned by Dominus, angering Major Force, but Batman calms them, knowing he could definitely take the Major down if he wants to. Booster says that OMAG is tied to the Brother Eye satellite above, and it's a quite advanced piece of tech, even for the time they are in, and it's still above them floating around in space. Sinestro tells them to gather up since he's going for a ride as he covers them all with a construct and they head into space, finding the satellite in orbit, which Booster knows from the time working in a museum that held it. It is made up of a sentient tech, and it turned the ordinary Buddy Blank into OMAC, who also happens to be Commandy's grandfather, which the boy cannot know. Ultra Humanite tells him to stop and get to the point, so Booster says the satellite can communicate across space and maybe even time. Brother Eye welcomes the group to its facilities, demanding to know who they are or defenses will be activated. Booster explains to it that time is about to be obliterated and they are trying to save it as the team find a programming station to be used by a human in case of emergency. Batman is shocked to learn artificial intelligence is real as Sinestro tries to reconfigure Eye's programming. Ultra Humanite pushes him out of the way, saying this calls for a superior intellect. Learning Booster was right and the satellite can reach OMAC across space and time. An alert soon goes out as the godness comes for the satellite, disrupting its power. Major Force uses his own power to juice up the power intake on the machine as Batman knows they can't stay in the disintegrating station. Ultra Humanite tries to contact their destination, but Booster rips open the console, saying that it won't matter if the satellite loses its data when he can maintain it, since luckily, the future version of Skeets sent the Vanishing Point's location to his suit's systems when they were there last. Sinestro understands what he's doing, helping the hero blend it with Brother Eye's systems. The godness wave reaches them as the group manage to teleport to the Vanishing Point, meeting with the rest of the teams who also manage to return to the base. They all know Dominus will know about this and he will hit back, but Starfire doesn't want to stand around and wait for him to attack, wanting to take the fight to him. Commandy meets OMAC, wondering if it's a pain if he has to duck through doorways thanks to his mohawk, but the man says he makes do. Booster is quick to break them up since people from the past can't know about their future, as Superboy asks what happens if they fail and this is it, but Steel tells him that they won't since they need to get him home to inspire generations of heroes, himself included. In the rubble of the base, Dr. Light finds her Nobel Peace Prize, thinking she had lost it. Batman says that it's a memento to take home, but Starfire knows that home is gone. But the Dark Knight isn't so sure, since what if the eras they are from weren't destroyed, but were moved, and it's not any more far-fetched to believe that the eras were hidden than thinking that they would eventually rebuild hundreds of millions of years worth of time. Sinestro knows that if Batman is right, he would be able to verify it with a simple Omni portal. Activating the portal, he shows them a hologram of Dominus and his family, but reveals to the team this isn't a hologram, it's live footage from a piece of carved out time. Dr. Light knows that instead of moving the other times, he extracted what he wanted to make a normal everyday life, something a demigod craves the most, and a piece of time that he can control and self-contain. Starfire knows that he's vulnerable there, but still isn't sure about attacking a home where there's children living, but Corey knows that they need to and will, especially after all the death and chaos he has caused. Superboy backs Steel up, not wanting to do this, but Sinestro tells him to stand down, since this time they have to do what they must. Dr. Light wants to wait and see what they are dealing with, since they could be booby traps or defenses waiting for them. Ultra Humanite agrees that they need more info and the team becomes split on what to do, so Booster tells them they all need a plan and maybe they only send one of them to reason with the villain. Steel thinks that sending one as the tip of the spear is a good idea and thinks that Batman would be best suited for the task, but the hero wonders if they could even access that plane of existence, and Sinestro is insulted that Batman would ever think to question that. In extracted time, Dominus and his family sit on the porch stargazing when Batman comes out of the darkness, wondering if the villain has ever told them about how he's controlled the birth and death of every star in the sky. The villain is surprised to see the hero alive, saying that he's intruding on his family time. Batman says that he had a family too, and it was real, and this is just an imitation, and if that's enough for Dominus then he can have it, as long as he puts everything else back the way it was. Dominus knows that that's impossible and he won't risk his family for anything, making Batman realize that everything going back to the way it was means that the family go away. Dominus's wife tells the hero to leave, but Dominus tells her that he will handle this as his daughter says that she doesn't like Batman, blasting the hero with heat vision. Batman, however, is saved by Sinestro and the arrival of the other heroes, which angers Dominus since they cannot be in his realm. The villain attacks, killing Artemis and Ultra Humanite as Steel notes the villain's energy signature is changing, as is his mass, signaling Sinestro was right and Dominus is made up of pure energy. His family begins screaming in pain as the heroes try and subdue Dominus, but he manages to hit Omak with his rays, reverting him back to a normal human boy. Commander is surprised to learn that he was just a kid, and he was supposed to fix all of this and be the one to stop it all, and this is all his fault. Sinestro tells Superboy to keep the villain busy, so the hero smashes into Dominus, saying no more will die today because of him. Starfire sees the town around them is breaking apart and it must be connected to the villain since he's losing control of the world itself. Dr. Light comes to Superboy's aid, but her power burns the hero thanks to it being red sun energy. Steel realizes that Dominus's connection to the town is the key, so if they blast the town apart, they weaken him. The heroes get to work destroying the fake town, but Dominus pleads with him to stop since they are killing his family. Dr. Light reminds everyone that they are just a construct and not real people, as the town is completely destroyed and the goneness takes it over. Dominus runs to his family, saying that he is there for them and he will fix it all. Booster knows that this doesn't feel like winning at all, as the villain cradles his family in his arms. Batman thinks that they were wrong, as Superboy wants to save the children from disintegrating, but Sinestro stops him, saying that they are only constructs and an illusion and are not real. The family fade into dust along with the rest of the town, and the piece of asteroid the town was on is revealed. Dominus says that they lived a life, and how could these heroes rip that away from him, since they were real to him? The villain grows to immense size, attacking the heroes and killing Major Force with his blasts. Steel is engulfed by the energy, not able to take much more, as Superboy comes to protect him. John Henry says that the nodes on Dominus's breastplate are the source of his power, and Superboy knows that they will die before they even get close enough to do anything to them, but Steel points to his symbol, saying that where he comes from, it stands for sacrifice. Superboy tells the others to attack the nodes, so they get to work, blasting the armor, as Sinestro remembers Dr. Light can manipulate the light around them, as the hero wants Sinestro to hit her with his ring. Sinestro does so, allowing Dr. Light to become overloaded with the green energy from the ring, firing out a yellow lantern beam, which intrigues Sinestro greatly. The blast hits Dominus and Superboy wields Steel's hammer, slamming it into the villain, caught by Steel when the explosion throws him from the villain. Batman meanwhile wants to see where Dominus's energy node conduits lead, wanting Booster to get them inside Dominus with his force shields. Commandy wants to come with them as well, as the rest of the heroes pour on the power to the villain. Booster grabs Batman, Steel and Commandy in a shield and blasts through into Dominus, finding another town within his body, theorized to be the center of the chronal energy that is pumping through him and the town. Commandy thinks the house is Dominus' soul as they enter the home, finding the power is coming from some type of painting. Batman knows that this is one of Dominus' memories and it's all he's had, and all the timelines he's seen, this is the one that matters the most, and a single moment can change everything. Booster wants to blow up the painting, but Commandy stops him, since this moment defines Dominus, and the villain is a product of the loss he had, and he saw firsthand what happens when they took the illusions away, since he tried to kill them. He reminds the heroes that they are just that, the greatest heroes of every generation, and heroes save lives. Booster says that Dominus has murdered timelines and killed trillions, but Steel agrees with the boy, having his own theory, since chronal energy flows from the portrait like water, and it is pumped out of Dominus to be used at will. He knows that converting energy needs some type of turbine, as he removes the painting, finding a room hidden behind it, with a machine in it that is converting the energy into what Dominus needs. The team know that if they destroy the machine, Dominus will live, but he will be without his power. The heroes unleash their power on the turbine, destroying it as Dominus feels his powers begin to fade. The heroes inside him escape the villain's body as he disappears in the blink of an eye, with the heroes not knowing where he has gone. Dominus meanwhile appears in a white void where he finds the painting, telling his beloved that they will rebuild and come together again. Later at the vanishing point, Wave Rider tells the group that time has been returned and it can now reintegrate into the universes. The old Booster Gold says that time is whole again and as it once was. Booster wants to know how Wave Rider and his old self are there, seeing as he saw them die, but the heroes say they didn't, as Dominus's wave locked them in a stasis of some type, unable to progress any further. answer. Dr. Light finds it amazing that Dominus did all this to isolate his protected section of time and wanting it to last forever with a family that could never change. Superboy knows that thanks to them it's all fixed, which surprises Starfire given how different they all are. Clark asks what happens now and Batman thinks that they all get to go home now, something Kamandi is not too happy about, being that he's the only man alive on that world and his world is a wasteland. Wave Rider says that they will all be sent back to their places of their departure since they are from the most unique universes where time passes differently and their people age at a much slower, almost imperceptible rate. Old Booster Gold says that they all have important roles to play, like Kamandi, who is to rebuild the Earth in the wasteland, or Superboy, who is meant to be with the Legion of Superheroes in the 31st century. Starfire is saddened that they won't ever meet again, having found a second team in them equal to the Teen Titans. Sinestro is also shocked that this actually worked out, but Dr. Light is eager to get home to see her family. Wave Rider says that he can take them all home, delivering all of the heroes back to their respective worlds and never-ending battles. Old Booster Gold takes Kamandi home, telling the boy that no one should know their future. Kamandi understands why they had to keep it from him, but is going to miss having other humans around. Hoping Booster's going to hang around for a while, the old hero is more than happy to as Wave Rider drops Batman home. Batman asks the being what he meant by their universes being special, so the Wave Rider tells them that they are in what is called the Linearverse, a place where the people age far more slowly and Batman's youth and vitality will endure for decades, enabling him to become a Batman for far longer than the universal norm. The being gives Batman one of the time travel bands from one of the Linear Men, telling him to use it only as a last resort during a true crisis. Wave Rider tells Batman to embrace his future since it will endure in ways he cannot imagine as he spans decades, changing the times as he aligns himself with some of the greatest heroes on Earth, while Earth itself is made into the most unique of the Linearverse's worlds made up of entire generations.